Good morning guys, welcome back to the channel. Today is finally the day that we are going to work on the Duramax. We've had the fast lift pump, the deviant sump, and then the system saver. We've had this horse laying around for over a week now and we've been needing to get him installed on the truck. Super stoked to get that done. As soon as we get that stuff done, we can just let this truck eat, let it rip, and not really worry about anything anymore. This here is everything laid out that we will be installing. This is the whole fast 165 GPH system. This stuff over here is for the deviant sump. And this boy right here is the system saver, just in case that CP4 takes the shit. We won't destroy the rest of the fuel system. The fast lift pump will be taking some of the load off the CP4, and then it's also a filtration system, so it should catch any air or water that is in your diesel. And this here sump not only helps with the quarter tank issue, so if you're below a quarter tank and you have the fast system installed, you may run into some issues there. So this is gonna help with that because it's right on the bottom. It's gonna be pulling diesel from the bottom, not through the straw. It's also much easier to install this along with the fast versus dropping the tank or pulling off the bed, because this is bolting right onto the bottom of the fuel tank. There's a feed and return on the sump, so we won't have to pull the tank or pull the bed, which is super exciting. System saver is for if the CP4 takes a shit, it kind of catches all of the metal shavings from entering the rest of the fuel system. I'm gonna get the hard part out of the way first, which, well, not hard, but like the dirty part out of the way, which is draining the fuel tank. We do have a little less than half a tank of diesel in here right now, so I have a bunch of cans and buckets and everything laying around the shop. So let's drill a little hole in the bottom of our tank, get that thing drained, and then we will be drilling a 3 1/4 inch hole for the sump. So the first thing we're gonna do is pull off this entire cover right here. The fuel tank is located under that cover. All right, we got the factory cover removed. Our sump is gonna go right in between those two divots right there and kind of near the back of the tank. And it's a perfect flat spot for the sump to seal on. So what I'm gonna do is jack up the back of the truck as much as possible, get her up on some jack stands, just so majority of the fuel will go to the front of the tank. We can get our I believe it's a 3 1/4 inch hole saw out and drill right in the center of that thing, let the tank drain. All right, so right where that red dot is in the center of that circle, that's where we are gonna drill. This is the hole saw. We're gonna punch through it with that centering bit first, let the tank drain. Then we can use the 3 1/4 and pop a hole through the whole thing. While the tank is draining, and I'm guessing that's gonna take quite a while, we can move on to kind of assembling the sump. So we have these 2 fittings to install, and then there's a little plug that goes in that hole right there. We're gonna have to plug that. It's clearly labeled on here which is feed, which is return. So that side's feed, and that side is return. All right, this assembly is 100% ready to go. We got the little plug in there. The barb fittings are on. The seal is lubed up, ready to go. And these bolts have the sealing washers installed. All right, guys, we're finally done draining the tank. So let's go ahead and slap on the hole saw, get her cut open, and we can get that sump installed. So we got the hole cut. That yellow or white piece you see right there is the factory sending unit. So we're actually just gonna push that up and then we can install the sump itself. The deviant sump is installed. We haven't tightened anything down yet because I don't know exactly what orientation we want those outlets pointing, or how we want it pointing, I should say. All right, guys, it's time to move on to the fast system. So we're gonna run through and kind of get the pump assembled. We gotta get some of the fittings installed on there. We gotta deal with all the wiring. I think the wiring should be pretty simple. And then we do need to route all of the hoses, the feed and return from the fast back to the sump and all that good stuff. So let's get a few things assembled on the pump itself. Then we can mess around with some wiring. The whole harness is assembled and ready to go. All super easy to do. We had to add this fuse, or this add fuse right there. Crimp on those two ring terminals. There was a fuse that went inside of there. And then we had to add the relay with the relay cover. Red is gonna go to positive side of the battery. Green is gonna go to negative. We have to tap into our fuse box somewhere with this. Haven't figured out exactly where yet. This is gonna be mounted on the truck somewhere. And then this guy right here is gonna run all the way down and plug into the fast system. Let's get this harness ran on the truck real quick. It's gonna go obviously into the engine bay, down the bottom side of the truck, and all the way to where the fast is gonna sit out back. I would recommend using dielectric grease on that fuse there and for the relay itself, just to make sure we have a good connection. And when you go to plug this into the fast pump, throw a little bit on there as well. We have everything connected to the battery. Red goes to positive, green goes to the negative. We got that out of fuse connected. So everything up here should be good to go. All the wiring is tucked back there. Let's get that fuse box cover back on, and we have to run this wire here to the back of the truck. All right, we have all the wiring ran. What they want us to do now is actually plug in the fast system. And with the pump running, we're gonna squirt a ton of WD-40 into this hole right here. My guess is that's just gonna lube the gears. All right, we should be good there. Pump is lubed up, filters are back on. Let's go to get the pump installed, and then we can start running all of the fuel line that we need to run. All the mounting brackets are installed. These 4 bolts right here are still loose, so we can kind of slide it and adjust it, have it positioned exactly where we want it. And it's gonna be hanging right off of that bolt you guys see right there. That is where we're gonna mount the fast. They did give us a new bolt, so it's gonna go bolt, and then bracket, and then spacer, and then rebolt to the bed. All right, we have the fast installed. That's not where it's gonna sit. It's just gonna sit right there for now. And then when we get the hoses connected, we can push it up and out of the way so it's not hanging out like that. I did go ahead and disconnect the factory suction line, and we built this little plug, I guess you would call it. It's just a bolt with a hose. So plug that factory line. So now we're gonna connect this hard line right here. I'm just gonna run up and over the tank, and go to port E on the fast system. So we need this guy here, one of those guys there. Let's throw one end on for now, run the line, cut it to length, install this, tighten it down. And then the other two are gonna run back to the sump that we installed on the tank. All right, so that's the first line ran, E on the fast, up and over to right there. There's two more ports on the lift pump, and both of those are gonna run back down to our sump that we installed on the tank. All right guys, here is the final install, the final look. This 90 right here runs down to the feed, return runs back to the same side, that goes to the suction line. We were able to get the fast up and tucked in enough to where you can't see it whatsoever, which I think is pretty nice. All right, we ran through, tightened everything up. Unfortunately, we did run out of time to get our system saver in today, but from what I understand, this is a fairly straightforward job. 2 or 3 hours, we should be able to get this guy in from what I read online. Let's go clean up our work area a little bit, get this truck back down on the ground, and we need to throw some diesel back in her and get the system bled. All right guys, last thing to do is bleed the fuel system. So we have the front filter loose right now, just a little bit loose. We're gonna turn on the ignition. It's gonna squirt out some diesel in all of the air out of the system. We're gonna tighten it back up and we should be done. We should be good to go to fire this thing up and see if it'll run. We let it run for 10-15 minutes. We didn't have any leaks. We didn't have anything weird going on. So I think we're all good to go. Going into this, I was a little bit nervous that I wasn't really gonna be able to figure it out. If you guys do plan on doing, if any of you on here plan on doing a fast system with the sump, I'm gonna tell you right now, it's really not all that big of a deal. The thing that took me the longest was figuring out how all of the fuel lines run. I just showed you guys how to do it all. So if you wanna do it, there it is. I finally feel confident that we can turn this thing up a little bit. So let's grab this bad boy and turn it up. Let's throw her on good old race. I think before we were on economy. I don't know how much extra horsepower or how much extra boost this is gonna give us, but she was pretty quick before, so I'm pretty confident now she's gonna be a ripper. And if it's not, that just means we are gonna have to do some turbos, maybe some 20s. Both the fast system and the sump system that we just installed on the truck, I will link down in the description box below. Let's jump in this thing, let's go for a little rip, see how she feels. She's definitely a ripper. All right, my friends, that is gonna be a wrap for today's episode. We're pretty much finished up with the whole entire truck build. Not really sure what else we needed to do to this thing. I'm stoked with how much power it makes. I'm stoked with how it looks. I feel like there's just a few little tiny touches that we have to do left. And then of course, like a buff and polish and ceramic coat and all that good stuff. All that fun stuff later on down the road when it's not winter anymore. Unless some of you guys have some crazy ideas that we could do with the truck, I feel like we should probably just leave it how it is and enjoy it while it's nice and like reliable and comfy and cozy. But either way, drop a comment down below. Let me know what you guys think. Hope you enjoyed. Peace out. I'll see you tomorrow.